Our next speaker is Jumoke Ajidahun, Security Technical Specialist from Microsoft. And Jumoke is a technical specialist at Microsoft Canada, focusing on cybersecurity, threat detection, and using SIEM and XDR, as well as securing multi-cloud environment. With over 9 years experience in financial services, consulting, and business analysis, for example, in healthcare, Jumoke is passionate about helping customers improving their cybersecurity posture and transforming security practices.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jumoke Ajidahun. I am a security technical specialist at Microsoft. I offer technical pre-sale support for customers around security and threat protection. Thank you for joining us this evening as I give a quick presentation on cloud detection and response, specifically on securing cloud workloads and resources. Thank you, Brian, for having me here, and thank you, Chris, for that awesome presentation. To be hard for me to top that, but I'll just go ahead and get started. So organizations are fast embracing cloud services, moving assets and workloads to the cloud. And the few who haven't already have solid plans in the pipeline for cloud adoption. The reason for this is not far-fetched when we consider how cloud management platforms help organizations to achieve greater compliance around their assets and functions. Let's not also forget how organizations now have more flexibility as regards allowing their employees to work remotely and access company data on any device, and also not being limited to data and applications residing on only on-prem infrastructure. This also helps organizations save on hardware costs and general day-to-day running of the business when you consider office space reduction, electricity consumption, and the likes. One of the other reasons for increase in cloud adoption is the centralized IT management of assets and how all necessary assets can be centrally managed from a single platform. With cloud adoption also comes its own share of challenges. 2 years ago, the world experienced something major that has changed the way we live and do things for, I guess, a long time to come. It was very unexpected, and this saw a lot of organizations disregarding their cloud readiness and embracing digital business transformation with cloud adoption without adequate planning and adopting a suitable architecture and strategy that would generally enable smooth operation of cloud systems. This, of course, means that appropriate policy frameworks for data security, risk management, and so on, based on industry and the threat landscape of each organization, may not necessarily have been put in place to ensure adequate security of cloud resources. This also ties to how well cloud resources may have been configured, or even how well any misconfigurations are noticed and quickly addressed. Another major challenge of the cloud is ensuring that you have full visibility and protection coverage of everything that you own in the cloud. And we know that any loose ends in terms of protection and hardening can only lead to having vulnerabilities, which, if are not properly managed and are exploited, can lead to a cyber attack against the organization. Also interesting to note is the fact that attackers are getting even more sophisticated in their attacks and are constantly exploring new ways to launch attacks against organizations. In the last few years, it has been noticed that sophisticated attacks are now cloud only, targeting identities, resources, and data in the cloud. Three key things that must be put into consideration when it comes to cloud security is one, unifying protection across multi-cloud platforms, as well as with any on-prem resources that you might have. Basically, ensuring that you're well covered when it comes to security, regardless of whether you're utilizing just one or multiple cloud environments with a mix of on-prem infrastructure. You also want to ensure that at every point in time, you know what the security posture of resources within your environment is. This should include where you currently stand in terms of how secure you are, as well as recommendations of what can be done to further harden your resources and achieve better security posture. This is especially important in the case of provisioned resources that are not secure by default. The third thing that comes to mind is securing individual workloads within your environment. Workloads that include servers, containers, storage, databases, and even IoT devices. Going deeper on this, managing the security posture also involves finding weak spots across your cloud configuration, which will help strengthen the overall security posture of your environment. In the same vein, protecting workloads will help to reveal any vulnerabilities that exist within your environment and ideally offer ways in which they can be managed in order to protect against evolving threats. This should also translate into getting security alerts and incidents for threats within your environment. And a good way of managing this in a timely fashion will be to integrate with products that will enable seamless response and automation for SecOps teams, security teams in general. This is very critical to the overall security posture of your environment, encouraging and enabling automated responses to remediate a good number of security alerts and incidents goes a long way in ensuring that your security teams are not overwhelmed and that alerts do not even fall through the crack. And with that, I will go ahead and do a quick jump into my Defender lab just so I can practically showcase highlights um, of some of the challenges that I mentioned earlier in the presentation, and also ways they can be detected and responded to. Okay, so the landing page of my Defender portal shows the overview, and this is Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which is a cloud security posture management and a cloud workload protection tool. Um, and then this shows the different tiles that can take you to all the different features of Defender for Cloud. So the secure score that we have here provides a measurement of the security posture of this environment. And it is further broken down into individual secure scores of resources for different clouds, just because my lab environment is connected to Azure, AWS, and GCP. We also see here on the overview page the total number of assessed resources, as well as active recommendations and security alerts. I'll go deep into that shortly. Here we see the regulatory compliance section that shows the compliance frameworks for this environment. So moving on to what is more applicable to this session, I'm going to move to the recommendations tab. Here we see the secure score again, as well as active recommendations. And then there's this attack paths feature. Just going to click on that, which basically helps you to address the security issues that pose immediate threats with the greatest potential of being exploited in your environment. So Microsoft Defender for Cloud analyzes which security issues are part of potential attack paths that attackers could use to breach your environment. It also highlights the security recommendations that need to be resolved in order to mitigate it, and also shows you like affected resources that will benefit from implementing those security recommendations. So I'm going to take a step back now to the recommendations page, and you notice how they've been grouped into like different categories. Here we have in enable MFA. If I open that up, it shows like specifics in terms of what MFA features should be done on specific resources that will help to increase the security posture of the environment. Also tells you, gives you a potential score increase of how that would impact your overall security posture within your environment. So if I click on that first one, it gives a description of what it entails and also gives you remediation steps on what you need to do to be able to implement that remediation. Also lists the affected resources that should benefit from doing that. In this case, it's only one resource. So if I take a step back and maybe click on another one, actually in another category, let's try that. Is to encrypt data in transit. So this one says web application should only be accessible over HTTPS. Yeah, again, gives you a description and then gives you remediation steps of, how you can go about achieving that. And then this one also gives you a quick fix option where you can just implement that remediation with a um, click of a button, or you can decide to do it manually following these steps, and then also list all the resources that will benefit from that, from implementing that remediation. Now, moving on to security alerts, that shows gives you a breakdown of threats that have been noticed within this environment, and also puts it into different severity levels of high, medium, and low to sort of guide you on how to prioritize how you go about investigating and responding to these alerts and eventually closing them, right? And it tells you affected resources, what MITRE attack tactics that they fall under, status of active for all the ones that you see here, and even the time around which the threat was first noticed within the environment. Then the inventory tab, which obviously shows all resources within your environment, giving you full visibility into what you have going on within the environment. So I'm going to go back to my slides now so we can continue. So what exactly are we saying with all of this? I understand that there might be need to move resources as quickly as possible to the cloud in some cases, but it is very important to prioritize choosing a suitable strategy during the planning phase of your cloud adoption that suits your organization and industry, as well as whatever threat landscape that you are exposed to. This should cover regulations and policies in terms of what every single resource that you have in the cloud should comply with, and also provide a suitable mechanism by which you have full visibility into every workload and resource that you have in the cloud. Um, this should also include how you'll be made aware of threats with security alerts and incidents, and what tools you'll be integrating with for investigation and response, because that's also a huge chunk of it, right? And then having full visibility and compliance frameworks tells you exactly what you need to do to better secure your environment and should ultimately reduce the vulnerabilities that exist within your environment, which should in turn limit the number of security alerts that you are getting and help you to better achieve a more coordinated detection and response mechanism. Okay, that brings me to the end of my presentation. Again, thank you for joining us this evening.